Hello world, welcome back to the Razor RC, and it's time to do the full review of the Team Associated B6.4. This is a 1/10 scale electric two-wheel drive race buggy from probably the biggest brand in 1/10 scale racing, Team Associated. I think this buggy probably outsells like every other buggy combined. My guess, not totally sure. But yeah, super popular race buggy. It's been out for a couple months. I picked this up pretty much as soon as it was available, and have been running it, driving it, all that good stuff, tuning it, testing it, and want to share my thoughts. So the way this review works is we are going to give it a rating in 5 different categories. That's going to be the design, the performance, of course, the durability, the support and maintenance, and finally value. I also have a video about the build. I used to have a build category, but I got a whole video on that, so if you're curious on how the build actually went, you can go check that out. And this rating is based on a curve, basically. So other vehicles in two-wheel drive race class are obviously going to be things like the Team Associated, the Team Yokomo YZ2 Cal 3.1, which I have over here. That's my Yokomo. I also have the Schumacher Cougar LD2, another excellent carpet car. So pretty familiar with most of the carpet cars. This buggy does come in 2 variations. It comes in the standard B6.4, which is really a high traction carpet or AstroTurf type of vehicle, and then also comes in the B6.4D, their dirt version, which is going to be for low to medium grip traction type surfaces. Obviously anywhere from like loose loamy all the way up to indoor clay. But my local track is carpet, so I did pick up the carpet version. We'll take a look at my personal vehicle. All 3 of my buggies are outfitted pretty much the same, so kind of doing this rating based on how it actually performs versus other vehicles. But you can see I've got a Savox 12, I think it's the 1267 SG Turbo. I got a Hobby Wing XR10 stock spec ESC. I got an ARX 482R Sandwell compatible receiver, Gen Ace Redline 6000 milliamp hour battery, and a Team Power 70.5 turn motor. So this is set up as a stock spec vehicle, also running full Wits Racing ceramic bearings throughout. We do have a 20% off coupon code, so if you're interested in ceramic bearings, which I do think is a pretty effective way to get more speed and a little more compliance, I think, with the way the car actually drives. That's a good way to check it out for not much money. And the only option part I'm running is a slipper aluminator there in the back and an aluminum servo horn. Other than that, this is pretty much completely stock vehicle, complete stock kit setup. I am running Schumacher tires, Cactus in the rear, and I think they're called the cut staggers there in the front. Yeah, we're going to be doing this review in those 5 different categories, and like I said, the rating is based on how it compares to other vehicles, so it's not a 1 to 5 star rating based on just what I think. It's really about how it compares to other vehicles. 3 stars would mean it's average, 5 stars would be best in class, and 1 star would basically mean worst in class. So yeah, let's get into the review. First category is the design, and changes to the B6.4 are primarily on the front end. The one really big thing is the change to 13mm bore shocks, so they are bigger shocks front and rear. The Schumacher also has 13mm bore shocks, but I think everything else in the industry still runs 12mm, so a little bit unusual, a little bit of a change there, and kind of surprising because that means basically the springs are not really compatible with other brands. But I think they went that way to try to get a little more compliance with the way this thing jumps and lands, especially. I'll talk more about that. Other changes are pretty much on the front end. Aluminum chassis has now got a 22.5 degree kickup, I think down from 25 degrees before. And they do have different inserts to raise or lower that from between 25 and 20 degrees. I think the old one was only between 30 and 25 degrees. So they went more to a more, lay down or less steep angle in the front. That's going to provide a little more traction, a lot better on higher traction surfaces. Really, you have high kickup more on the loose loamy stuff, the rough tracks, that kind of thing. So definitely this vehicle, I think, is gearing more and more towards high traction surfaces. That's something, Team Associated and pretty much the whole industry has been going towards more and more high traction surfaces and designing their cars to perform in those situations. They also did adjust the kingpin, so that is 1mm in from before. Did change a shock tower. The bell cranks are now height adjustable to get you really down to those low ride height surfaces. You can raise and lower the bell cranks. I think a new bulkhead think arms and stuff are still the same. Hubs, I don't know if they've been modified because they definitely built a little bit better than before, but they still got the +1mm steering arms and then the same turnbuckles as before. Chassis is +3mm. Another big change they did was basically to reduce the size of the ESC tray. So they've always had an ESC tray. It is much shorter, or I guess narrower than before. That allows you to move the battery even more far forward. I would guess maybe 4 or 5 millimeters. Definitely you can move the battery forward. That does centralize the weight a lot. It's something I noticed that helped a lot on the Schumacher. You know, it has a very weight forward type bias, and I think Team Associated kind of went in that direction. New chassis rails, different fan mounting positions, and then the whole back end is pretty much the same. I don't think they really made any changes other than the shocks there on the back being 13 millimeters, but they do have the same arms. I think they're the 73 millimeter arms and the 69 millimeter drive shafts. CVAs, of course, adjustable pill system there in the rear. Shocks you can mount on the front or back of the rear shock tower. It does have these nice little shock guards, which is really helpful because not a lot of vehicles have that. My Schumacher has it, but my Yokomo does not. So nice to see that they have provisions for that for the carpet tracks that require a covered shock tower. Front wing, of course, sway bars front and rear. The carpet version does come with a gear diff. The dirt version comes with a ball different. That's the primary difference, as well as different transmissions. This is the they call it the lay down transmission, and they also make a layback transmission for dirt. Battery tray is unchanged. Not really one of my favorite designs. Kind of fiddly. I do prefer either the Schumacher or the Yokomo or even the 2250 type battery straps. But yeah, it does work and does have a lot of adjustments, so can't really complain too much about there. Does it come with ESC steel weights and servo steel weights up there? Get you, again, more of that weight forward bias. And then the other optional part I did add is an aluminum 0 degree, or I guess they call it +0 hinge pin brace, just to get a little more weight there on the front. Definitely something you might consider for carpet. But yeah, design-wise, definitely some changes. I think geared more towards higher traction surfaces. I do think they kind of looked at the Schumacher, which in my opinion is probably one of the standard bearers for two-wheel drive carpet. Definitely one of the best ones out there. I also had a B6.3, and when I would go racing, I'd permanently run the Schumacher over the B6.3. I just felt it was a little bit quicker, a little bit better suited to carpet, and drove a little bit better for me. The B6.3, in my opinion, was kind of a safe driving type vehicle. I ran kit setup on that pretty much, and I'm running kit setup on this. Definitely much more aggressive, much more steering, much more, I think, corner speed on this vehicle as opposed to the B6.3, and it drives a lot more like the Schumacher in my opinion. I need to do a little back-to-back comparison to see what exactly the differences are, but yeah, definitely design-wise, I did think they went in that direction to give more steering, a little more aggressive feel, and a little more corner speed. In the design category, I do think this is actually one of the best designs out there. There are a lot of things I like about this, even over the Schumacher, even over the Team Yokomo. They are kind of the standard bearer, I think, in the two-wheel drive class. They've been doing it for 25, 30 years, and Team Associated really prides themselves on having one of the best, if not the best, two-wheel drive vehicles out there. A lot of adjustments. They do go with the 13 millimeter shocks. You got the front wing, the covered shock towers. A lot of adjustments between dirt and carpet, whereas something like the Schumacher or the Yokomo, not as many provisions for all the different surfaces. So I do think this is actually best in class design. I do like this the best. It's really easy to work on. I think it's very straightforward, nothing too weird, no weird little clips or weird screw size or anything like that you get the Yokomo or you get with the Schumacher. So yeah, design wise, I do think this is best in class. I'm gonna give them 5 stars. There's really nothing I can grade them negatively on. Maybe the battery strap is a little bit annoying still. Not a fan of that, but yeah, honestly, this is a really good design. Oh, and last thing, they did change the body. It is a full weight or regular weight body, but a little bit different design, kind of like a full length cab as opposed to like a cab 4 design that you get with the other vehicles. So design wise, I'm gonna give full 5 stars. I think it's one of its strongest points. Next up is the performance, and like I mentioned, it does drive quite a bit differently than the B6.3. The B6.3, I feel like they kind of went more for consistency, a little bit more safety, a little more ease of driving. It was a very easy vehicle to drive, and not a whole lot of changes from the B6.2. The B6.3 to the B6.4, I think, is a much bigger jump. It does drive quite a bit more different than the 3.3 from the 0.2. Like I said, much more steering on the front end. You can definitely dial in a lot more. The funny thing with these vehicles is that Team Associated, I feel like they're almost designed for like US style tires. So that would be J Concepts Fuzz Bites, Proline Prisms, something like that. Whereas a Schumacher, in my opinion, is obviously designed for Schumacher tires, which are going to be the Cut Staggers and Cactus tires. And the American or US brand tires tend to have a little more aggressive grip on the front end, whereas the Schumachers tend to be a little more smoother, a little bit easier to drive on the tires. And I think as a result of that, they kind of build their car to be a little more aggressive steering wise, so that it can utilize those, sort of softer feel tires. Whereas the US cars traditionally, I think, have been a little bit lazier on the geometry, the driving characteristics of the vehicle, and kind of made up for it with like super grippy, aggressive tires that maybe you might traction roll, or you can get a little more steering that way. But with the B6.4, I feel like they built in more steering, a lot more aggressive. It's really fast out of the box. I think even with kit setup, I don't feel like any normal sane person will feel like they need a ton more steering. It is quite aggressive. It is fast, in my opinion. It does carve corners a little bit better than before, but I think it's still relatively easy to drive. This thing, when I threw it down, really had no problems adapting to it, getting used to how it drove, even though I drive quite a few different other vehicles, including the B6.3, and this thing felt very comfortable, aggressive, and fast out of the box, and wasn't really making a ton of mistakes. So out of the box, I think this is a very good vehicle, even with the kit setup. Obviously you can play with that and make changes, but performance-wise, I think this is really, really good. Now, is it as good as the Cougar LD2? I'm not sure. The Cougar is an excellent two-wheel drive platform. There are things I don't like about it, but certainly in the performance category, I think most people would agree that it's a really good car. So in the performance category for the B6.4, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I do think it's above average. Is it best in class? Not quite sure, but it definitely is up there with some of the fastest carpet vehicles out there, in my opinion, at least with the kit setup. I did have a little bit of concern about the performance, and that's pretty much with the shocks. Probably wondering, how do the shocks affect the actual driving of this vehicle? In my opinion, it does add a lot more pack. Landing this vehicle from pretty much 2 feet high onto flat, hard surfaces, it does pack quite a bit. Doesn't, chassis slap as much. Kind of lands, sticks, and allows you to get on the throttle a little bit earlier. But I do have concerns because this buggy does feel a little bit top heavy, in my opinion. Does seem to roll quite a bit. I don't know if it's kind of the addition of the heavyweight body and kind of the weight of the 13mm bore shocks up high, which kind of makes it, a little bit more weight up above the vehicle rather than down low in the vehicle. Just something I kind of noticed. Obviously, you can do some tuning with springs and rolls and stuff like that to try to mitigate that. But yeah, it is something I did notice. It does feel like a much more top-heavy vehicle than in the past. I think a lightweight body would help quite a bit, and then maybe you'll be okay there. So yeah, just a couple concerns about the performance that I noticed when driving it. I'll be honest, with 17.5 turn motors and a relatively small track, you're not going to break a whole ton of stuff. I mean, I don't recall the last time I actually broke something on any of my two-wheel drive Team Associate vehicles. I have broken parts on other brands, but Team Associate for me has always been really, really durable vehicles. I don't, I think back with the B5 and the B5N, they had a plastic kick-up, plastic front end. You could break things there. But honestly, the arms, everything on this thing are super durable. Even the body is really durable. It's full-weight body. I think performance-wise, you might want to go with a lighter weight body. But yeah, in terms of durability, no concerns. The wing, everything has been holding up totally fine. I think Team Associate does focus on durability a little bit more than some of the other vehicles. I think the Schumacher with the caster box, you can break some things. I think with the Yokomo, Some of the parts are a little more dainty, not quite as thick. Even like the shocks and stuff look a little more fragile to me than other vehicles. But on the Team Associate, I think durability, they use 3mm screws all throughout. Very, very good vehicle, and no concerns about durability. I'm gonna give it full 5 stars. I haven't broken anything on this, but like I said, I haven't broken anything on my two-wheel drive 17.5 turn Associate kits in a really long time. So I think I have no issues, no complaints, no concerns there. Full 5 stars in durability. I think this is probably best in class and one of the most durable buggies you can buy. Here in the US, Team Associate is pretty much the biggest and most popular race brand throughout the country. I think you'll find more people running Team Associate than any other brand. And as a result, you do have most hobby shops carrying parts because they are such popular buggies. In addition to that, you can obviously buy stuff online. You can call them up for help. There's a lot of team drivers out there. Working on this vehicle also is a breeze. It does have the quick access disc. Everything is easy to get to, no weird screw sizes, no hard to access screws or anything like that. Parts quality on the screws is excellent. They're not going to strip. So yeah, overall, I do think support and maintenance is probably best in class for this. It's probably easier to run a Team Associate buggy than any other brand, including even TLR or X-Ray, Yokomo, Schumacher, again, are going to be smaller brands, a little bit less or a little bit more difficult to get parts and support, but Team Associate is best in class in my opinion. Full 5 stars in support and maintenance. They don't really tend to run out of parts. The parts inventory seems to be pretty good. Things are generally always in stock. Even during the pandemic times, most everything was still available, so that was really nice. Full 5 stars. This is best in class in support and maintenance. The B6.4 sells for $399.99 in the US. The dirt version is $10 cheaper. That's pretty much the cheapest two-wheel drive buggy out there. The Yokomo is $10 more at about $410. The Schumacher, I think, is about $400 if I remember off the top of my head. The X-Ray XB2 is again $410. The 2250 DC Elite is $420, though it does have some premium parts. So price-wise, this is pretty much the cheapest two-wheel drive buggy out there. Everything's at $400 or more, and this is $400 or $390 if you get the dirt version. However, I do feel like the parts quality, the manufacturing, even non-pre-cut bodies, is maybe a hair down from some of the other vehicles. I do think the Yokomo is a higher grade vehicle. I do think the X-Ray is definitely a higher grade vehicle. The 50 DC Elite, pretty comparable, pretty similar in my opinion, but does have some niceties, like all the parts are off part trees, does have a pre-cut body. They definitely make things a little bit easier for you and a little bit extra value in the box. Everything here are on parts trees, so there is a little bit more work involved. I think parts quality wise, it's kind of average. Team Associate stuff has never been known for having the highest quality pieces, parts, manufacturing, plastics, metals, all that kind of stuff. It is fair. It's reasonable. I don't think there's any major concerns. It does seem like they kind of fixed the C blocks a little bit. They did fit a little bit better than before, so nice to see that. Transmission, for whatever reason, sometimes can be tricky on some of my previous versions, but this one actually fit together reasonably well. The machining and all the aluminum parts actually seems pretty nice. So value-wise, I think it's above average. I'm going to give it 4 stars. It is a little bit cheaper than the rest, but you do also lose a little bit, I think, in some of that parts quality. So that's why it doesn't get a full 5 stars. But 4 stars value, definitely. If you're concerned about saving 10 or 20 bucks, this is going to be one of the cheapest options out there. So final thoughts on the buggy. Excellent vehicle as always. Really more of an evolution. Again, nothing too earth-shattering here, but it does drive quite a bit better, I think, than the B6.3. It is a larger gap, in my opinion, than the B6.3 from the B6.2, which honestly kind of drove about the same. It was slightly more consistent, but it really wasn't earth-shattering or anything like that. Excellent vehicle, excellent part support, value is good pretty much across the board. This is above average vehicle, if not best in class. Performance, is it the fastest buggy out there? I'm not really sure. It is really, really good. I don't think this is going to hold you back. I think all these buggies honestly are really fast vehicles, and it's going to come down to driver skill and setup, as with most forms of racing. So no concerns there. Excellent vehicle. If you're new to two-wheel drive racing or even racing just in general, Team Associate is always going to be one of the top choices, I think, just because your ownership experience is going to be easier. You're going to be able to get the parts that you need. You're going to be able to get setup advice. You're going to have a lot of team drivers drivers around you that can kind of help you drive the vehicle. If you need spare parts, someone could probably loan you a piece if you break something and can't find it. So yeah, overall, Team Associates is always just going to be a great, excellent two-wheel drive buggy. There's no, it's no wonder it's pretty much the most popular brand here in the U.S. and for a good reason. So yeah, excellent buggy, not too much else to say. Drives well. Really no weaknesses, I don't think. I think they've closed the gap between this and other carpet vehicles out there. It is as fast or almost as fast as I think all the other stuff you can buy. And the durability is excellent. I think you're not going to have too many concerns about finishing races, especially on 17.5 turn motors, which are not going to launch these things at 50 miles per hour, hopefully into a steel pole. So those are my thoughts on the B6.4. Throw down your thoughts down below if you own one of these or have thoughts or any questions you might have. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button. Look for more videos soon, and thanks for watching.